Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the rationalinvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans. Don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the rationalinvestor.com's weekend frivolity. This is our Broiler Chicken Show. Bark, 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 bark. Happy Sunday. TGIS. TGIS-UN. Not quite sure how that works. Anyway, halfway through September. Lily's birthday's coming up in 11 days. Oh, boy. And he's going to be an old man. He's almost a quarter of a century old. Son of a gun. Wow, that makes me pretty old. Anyway, thank you for your best wishes last weekend. Actually, we had a pretty good adventure. And we'll have another one today. So if you all could say a nice little karmic best wishes for Lily and I on the road today, I appreciate it. And actually, I have to say, I'm very impressed. Patience and discipline. I see these silly local real estate prices are slowly starting to edge their way back down. So more so to the point where we're almost at the point where I can actually go and buy him a nice little house. So just got to be patient. And the irony of it all is that we haven't even had the market break yet. Canada should go through a very similar thing to what the US went through with the great financial crisis, which is just a load of horse shit. It's just the bankers went and lent too much money to people that they knew couldn't pay the loans back, and they set a trap for them. And of course, we all know this, that really this is just nothing more than a function of them great resetting the society. It's when debt to GDP hits 100%, you got no choice but to flood the market with currency and increase the size of the economy relative to that old debt size. Add a zero onto the end of all your prices. And mysteriously, what is inflation? Ironically enough, it's so obvious if you have half a brain in your head. Sad thing is the public they've been brainwashed, and they're like literally purposefully ill-educated. Is that a term? Can you say that? Ill-educated? I don't know. I mean, I think this is actually criminal. But the problem is that they run the government. So if they run the government, I mean, did anybody hold Adolf Hitler accountable through running his government and the atrocities that he committed? Joseph Stalin, Winnie the Pooh, for that matter. God, even the atrocities of the silly Iranian government when they cracked down. I have this, in fact, actually, I got to go get my haircut. I have this cute little Iranian hairdresser, and every time I go in there, God, she talks about the horrendous. And the worst part about it is these people do it in the name of religion. How disgusting is that? Silly species. Anyway, as I've told you repeatedly, I mean, this world sucks. But the good part about it is there's these guys, Brian Beamish, out in the world. There are a few of them out there that are actually trying to make a positive difference in this world. And if, believe it or not, you actually learn the rules of the game, you can actually turn the tables on these people and literally, take advantage of their vulnerabilities and weaknesses. I suppose you can't really do it in a totalitarian dictatorship. So thank heavens we still have some sort of semblance for constitutional law in the West here. But I'll tell you, certain presidential candidates, mind you, I guess both of them for that matter, down in the United States, it'll be interesting to see whether the United States of America and this beautiful sort of this wonderful concept that we had of individual rights and freedoms and constitutional law a rules-based society. It'd be really interesting to see whether this even survives over the next 10 years or so. There was an omen that said that Trump was supposed to be the last president of the United States of America. I don't know whether any of you have ever heard that. But those are the kind of funny little tidbits that Brian. It's funny, actually. I was talking to another guy here through the week. I won't name names. I mention his name too much, but anyway. And I was talking to him about the crack spreads. And he's like, "How the hell do you know this?" And then we started talking about what drives soy meal prices. Turns out it's the anchovy market down off the coast of Chile, and whether we're in El Nino or La Niñas. Brian's full of completely meaningless, useless trivia. Well, I suppose if you want to take a position in the grains, maybe that's helpful. I will say, though, that this gentleman is interested in one particular market, and we were looking at it last week, and they actually looked like they were a buy, especially considering this the seasonality. If you trade markets seasonally, this is exactly the time you want to be going in there and hunting bottoms in the grain markets as we're coming into fall harvest. Anyway, never a dull moment at TRI, and never a dull moment. This is a great part about working with a guy like me. 35 years experience in the business. I was a funded prop commodities trader. I was a commodities broker. I used to actually broker deals for people. I was an options broker. Getting your options license is impossible in this world. And a lot of people are like, "Well, why aren't you gone back to that world?" I actually left that world because I was so disgusted in the way that industry itself is a tax revenue base for government. I mean, I'm just absolutely disgusted at the growth and prosperity of government in our society in this 21st century. I'm actually quite surprised, to be honest with you. I would argue that the number one growth industry for the past, let's say, half decade, quarter decade, or half century, quarter century is government, especially in this country, China. Stunning how we used to feel like we were so free and we had such an awesome system when I was a kid. And just slowly over time, the tax rates in this country, we're like the heaviest taxed society in the world, and they just keep finding more and more ways to hit us. It's just stunning. So one of the reasons why I left the securities business was they introduced these things, continuing education requirements, which was nothing more than that the brokers, the licensed brokers, must take. And I had to sit there and listen to some idiot in 2007, and you probably don't even remember this. Most of you weren't even in the market then. 2006 justify the staggeringly high commodity prices. And like literally 2007, 2008, 2009 came along and the commodities all collapsed and all of that commodity fugazi all just vanished. In fact, you might even argue that the Canadian venture exchange and the Canadian mining industry itself has not recovered since. It was such an incredible collapse. And yet I was required to pay this fool money out of my pocket after tax, continuing education requirement. I had to sit there and listen to this idiot that I knew was completely wrong, because I learned from all the old timers who actually made money from trading stock, not some fucking bureaucrat paper pusher, guy. And this is why I absolutely hate listening to university professors and these bureaucratic technocrats talking about like where the direction of the economy and all this kind of stuff is going, because they don't have any skin in the game. The only people that really know what the hell's going to happen are the people that have money on the line. And ironically enough, they actually are manipulating the market, like say our buddy Mr. Fink, right? Anyway, guys like Buffett, those are the people. Druckenmiller. Sadly, those are the people that you should listen to. Don't ever listen to a university professor. They are the last people in the world to listen to. But anyway, happy, joy. Mr. Beamish, of course, coming along here, spreading sunshine and merriment across your Sunday. But as I said there earlier, my job, at least I don't know whether I volunteered for it or I was volunteered. I'm not quite sure, but my job is just to simply go, hey, you know, they've stacked the deck against us, but at the same time, too, if you know how to play the rules, you have a little bit of patience, a little bit of discipline, you know what to look for. When the market is ready and ripe to move higher, you should be well positioned to take advantage. Um, and there are actually rules to this game. Crazily enough, M's are bearish, W's are bullish, all that kind of talk. I suppose if you need help with that, probably a good segue. We do have our fall education term starting shortly. Actually, something that we've introduced recently, which I thought was super cool. And actually, a couple people have said they've had conversations with Josh and they were quite pleased at how things have developed. Especially if you want access to our advanced trader rooms, like we have a day trading room. We have a couple day traders in there who are just fucking bosses. These guys are going to be richer than all of us put together. They're so good at what they do. So we have a lot of people on the site that just want to just hang out with these guys. And actually, I've sent most of them, including Adams over there on YouTube. He's hanging out in our day trader room. Then there's Steven, of course, in the harmonics rooms and all the harmonicans, Igor, Hafed, Steven, and the rest of you. You know who you are. Those guys are fun to just sort of sit and shoot the poop with. And if you like trading harmonics, it's definitely it's a unique way of looking at the market. But they do a fantastic job. Our options club I had this formula that I used when I was an options broker to try and prevent me from buying overpriced options. So we call the club the secret options formula. That's our club meeting. That's the name of my funny little formula. And keep in mind, most people do not buy options to make money in the market. I was an oddball when it came to doing things like buying options with the expectations to make capital gains. Most people in the market use options for either hedging or income generation from covered positions. We actually even had on a really nice spread trade that we did in Alibaba. And that stock's moved up quite a bit, especially on Sjord, TRI's CTO, Chief Technology Officer. If I'm going to listen to anybody in the technology space, I definitely listen to Sjord. He's smarter than all of us put together. Anyway, he really liked the prospects of Baba, so we went and bought a gold bull call spread, and actually that trade's doing quite nicely. So whether you be a little old lady, and you're just going to come in and nibble here, nibble there, what are the rules around being a little old lady and appropriate risk management for that kind of strategy? Our level 1 instructor, Grim, actually teaches it very, very well. He calls it his nanny nibbles, gardening, planting flowers, all the fun, playing canasta, like all the fun sort of references to being a little old lady. So if your bent is that, I would like to participate, but I don't want to take too much risk, and I want to play from a position of strength. How do I do that? All the way to, like I said, futures trading. Our level 2 education instructor Marat actually does such a beautiful job with his relative rotation, and he's a GAN fan, so Always fun checking in with Marat and his GAN analysis. And then, of course, the Beamish is in there teaching the level threeers, all those fun options concepts, as well as an introduction to Stephen and his harmonics, and Ed and his day trading TPOs and footprints. It's a very, very robust program, I will say. And I think at the very least, what I absolutely love is the testimonials that we have. And if anything, I like what we've done here, because if you need to just validate that you're coming to a place and not getting screwed over at some sort of terrible marketing shill, um, check out our testimonials. Our testimonials is everything from the little old lady to which would be like a very conservative, very sort of higher time frame, very slow approach to, like we said, and you can see all these people banging out doubles and loving the little old lady method, all the way up to trading futures and trading options, and like I said, trading setups like a boss. I absolutely love the way that this actually sort of flows together, because I think a really, really big push that we want to do moving forward, of course, is to try and encourage people to consider joining our pro package, our professional trading tools that we've been trying to build and work on for Jesus, past like 5 years now, get these up and running. And us just coming out and just saying, hey, you know what, our signaling system's awesome, we're the best. I mean, I'm sure anybody's going to go, well, how do I trust you? And if anything, I love the fact that I think we have a very good reputation in the space. So, if anything, what I've been telling people, in fact, actually I had a tutorial with a gentleman recently, and I'm kicking around the idea of actually not necessarily charging a fee for the tutorial service, but charging a royalty, saying, look, I'll teach you and I'll teach you really cheap, but the deal is that I get a percentage of your portfolio performance. So if I've taught you and you do well, and some of these people do staggering well. Like, I wish I had a royalty on this guy. On this guy, wouldn't that be cool? Oh, wait a minute, that's my account. But some of these people you saw in here, like, oh, I just took 100 G's out of the market and all that kind of stuff. Wish I had a fucking royalty on them, eh? So anyway, I'm kicking around the idea of doing something along those lines. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. But point here is, I think we have a very, very good reputation in the industry, especially within the crypto space. And it's so ironic, Three Arrows Capital, don't sell half on a double, buy more. So these people that don't know what they're doing, and they disrespect risk management, as you are supposed to be, number one, a risk manager, and de-risk yourself as fast as possible in this space. The people that don't understand how to play this game, do yourself a favor if you're watching this afterward and just Google Three Arrows Capital. What happened there? That's a pretty good example of how most venture cap participants participate. They do great on the way up, and they get absolutely destroyed on the way down. Where's that SBF guy now? We all know where he is. So if you are interested in learning how to become a professional trader, actually, and whether it be I'm going to be a little old lady and just take it slow and steady wins the race. There, this guy, I want a royalty on this shit. Anyway, I think that this website, and I think this education program, I haven't seen anybody hold a candle to this. What I do see happen in this space is, a certain person can, maybe learn an indicator or something that they get really good at, or, learn a very specific time frame that they work at. The only reason why I think I can do what I do is because for some stupid reason, 30, 40 years ago, I said, I want to do every job in this industry possible so nobody can bullshit me and tell me something that they think is right. And I go, I don't know, that doesn't quite sound right. So we have a very, very broad-based education program. Like I can tell you, if you went into a major brokerage house, I can absolutely tell you without a shadow of a doubt, there will be very few brokers that will have their financial planner's license, that will have their commodities trader's license, and have their options trader's license. Nobody does that. only an idiot like Brian would do that. I mean, each one of those is a career path. But you're not supposed to do all of them simultaneously. That's Brian. Well. Anyway, and I have a feeling that I was supposed to do this in a weird sort of way. They always say that, well, I don't know whether they say it or not. I mean, do you believe in fate? Do you believe in destiny? In a weird sort of way, if my life had gone the way I would have hoped my life would have gone, I wouldn't be talking to any of you right now. I would actually be sitting with my beautiful wife and my child. And, probably I was at one point, I actually managed a small hedge fund, call it, on the Interactive Brokers with a couple larger size clients before she passed while she was sick and at home. And I moved my business home. Didn't do a very good job looking after her. And I will live the rest of my life in regret over all that. Poor dear. But I do believe that she visited me after she passed. And I do believe that I don't necessarily think it was a request. I think it was more like it was a statement of fact. I think that's the way I look at it. Is she basically said, Brian, I remember these words. I'll remember them till the day I get reunited with her on the other side. You have the opportunity to make a positive difference in this world. She didn't say I was going to. But in a weird sort of way, her supporting me through all my crazy adventures in the working world, in the securities business, was able to give me all the experience so that, I know that you can't, tell me a story that I don't think is true. And I can talk about the anchovies meal market off the coast of Chile and the effects of El Nino and La Nina on the soy meal futures contracts here trading out of Chicago. A bit esoteric, eh? And in the same note, and in the same tone, I could actually talk to you about a buy signal that we got in Litecoin versus Bitcoin today. Technically speaking, based off of our technical analysis engine. Would you like to see that? I bet you would. And this is the kind of cool thing is that we've now built this platform. Like I said, I think we have the reputation that people watching this are not going to believe that we're some bullshit artists and we're blowing smoke up your ass. But I think actually now we even have the tools to really help you kick ass trading. And these are just like automated tools that just simply come straight to your email inbox. Where's my email just to show you what I'm talking about? That's Twitter. Mind you, we're not supposed to call it Twitter now. Whatever the hell we're supposed to call it. Where's my inbox? Where's this silly email? There it is over here. Look at this. I thought this was cool. And what I do like is that we've refined the engine. So it's spitting out, and I still have to do one more further revision here. I really would like to have this up and running and humming for sort of the big Black Friday sales event window here. Really try and promote you guys to consider subscribing. But this is interesting. This is the weekend signals. And look what popped up here. I thought that was kind of interesting. BTC versus LTC, 90-day reload zones. That's basically a concept we teach in our education program. W's in RSI. God, you hear Julian going on talking about his structural signals in RSI that he likes so much, and of course, bullish fractals. And I don't know whether you're familiar with a fractal or not, but of course, if you need help, education programs, great place to learn about candle patterns. So, and actually, it was super cool. Like these are all some signals that were spat up here recently by the system. And I think we had this in the newsletter. I included this in here because I have to say, man, this was one hell of a signal. And I suppose, this is the way it goes. Is anybody actually looking for trade setups right now? I don't know. Considering the political backdrop and all that, I suppose it's a bit tenuous right at the present. But our breadth indicator, and this is basically why I built this indicator a million years ago. Hopefully you can see here this crypto top 30. Red line, this is our fast line. And teal, this is like our slow line. And when the market on the sort of short term fast is below this 20 level, just think RSI or any kind of indicator like that, oscillators in the oversold zone. And then we can get the teal line, the slow indicator, also in the oversold zone. Then you actually start getting structural signals coming out of the fast and it crossing back above the slow in the oversold zone. Holy moly, that's one hell of a signal. And what was really interesting, like I said, is people who have the subscription service all set up. And what should happen is at TRI, on your user interface, and we're still sort of putting these pieces together just to make sure this works smoothly. I don't think that's a word. But on the website, and the question is, where the hell do I have that tab? Well, I don't need to go through this. We'll do it later on. But anyway, you should set up in your on your profile. Just, hey, I want to get Brian signals in my email. And I mean, look at this. This is incredible. So you saw the bread signal that sort of is our overall message that, hey, if you trade, you better pay attention. And then what was fascinating was to see all of these signals. It looks like right around the 8th, all hell broke loose. So you can see I have the date on here. I had to take this from another screenshot because unfortunately I lost the stupid chart. I don't know why. Anyway, I saved it wrong. Anyway, hopefully you can see that's a September 8th. That's a September 8th. September 8th. And like all of these signals, all just absolutely perfect. 180-day reload zones with W's and RSI and price W's. And I tell you, man, we should probably copyright this, but I mean, that's exactly what you want. It's absolutely perfect. There's a really good example of this pretty much exactly the same chart pattern, especially when you look at things like the momentum indicators. There's the W and RSI, really nice and stupid. Look at that beautiful bull div there in MACD. This is exactly what I teach all of you. And then hopefully you can see there's a cute little W that came in there and boom, up she goes. And this is exactly, I couldn't script this any better. This is exactly what I wanted to see. This is an interesting one too. Of course, this name directly related to that telegram and all the issues around that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the French sort of let the guy said, we'll do further investigation, but we'll let you out. And, the name came rallying back after they sort of threw him in jail. But I think their investigation is still ongoing, all that kind of crap. I'm not going to get into the fundamentals of Telegram and all that, but it is interesting to see that this is a pretty textbooky setup as it goes. And there were a few of them that all came in sort of the same thing. This Coddy, same sort of idea. You can see 90-day reload zones with RSIWs and bullish fractals. And what does that signal look like? I mean, just beautiful, like W's within W's. I mean, look at that. I mean, isn't this what you want? Just straight one line. I'm gonna buy here, and boom, up she goes. Wow, look at that, son of a gun. The only problem is the public, of course, sees this move, and now they're getting interested, which I don't think is a good idea whatsoever. These signals are all at least what these were from the 8th. So right now, these signals are all at least a week or so old, eh? So yeah, there's the 8th that was last weekend. And in a weird sort of way, I think what kind of happened here was we knew that there's FOMC meeting coming up here on the 18th. Everything was selling off, selling off, selling off. Then we had some econs that came out where they were relatively positive. I wouldn't say they're knocked the cover off the ball. And, in a weird sort of way, everybody has assumed that the Fed is going to be cutting rates dramatically. I don't necessarily agree with this. I mean, here are some of the econs that came out over the past week to sort of help that cause. Core actually ticking higher here. It's interesting how Chris had asked ChatGPT to throw together a little summary of what happened here because we were kind of running short of time. And I noticed, and I don't know whether it's a function of the articles themselves, but they all kind of spun. And did ChatGPT inject its own opinion into this? I don't know. But they all sort of spun the story that, oh, yeah, inflation's awesome. Everything's great, and inflation's going down. And, inflation fell to 2.5%, 3-year low. But what was fascinating about this, I mean, I suppose there is the inflation fall that it's talking about. But, keep in mind that Fed always talks about the core rate. Core rate's not moving an inch, and it's nowhere near 2% here. And I did find it interesting that month over month, actually, the rate actually ticked higher. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So I don't know whether I really buy that the economy is ready for a whole bunch of rate decreases down in the States. I think the economy is actually perfectly strong. Of course, unfortunately, a lot of this is you have to sort of figure out what's truth and what's lies. That whole employment picture down in the States. Talk about cooking the books. Holy crap. I mean, like 800,000 jobs that they reported theoretically were created that they mysteriously come out and said, oops, no, actually, it turns out we didn't create the jobs. Oh, my bad. Oh, yeah, all of you made all those investment decisions. And of course, political leanings and stuff based on lies, fraud. But oops, oh, don't hold us to account. I mean, I find it fascinating this modern day world that we live in, how corrupt this world is. I even mentioned this in, I think it was the Friday Daily Brief rant that I did. You can't trust anything out there now. It's all lies. And I would have thought that actually the advent of technology, we would have moved the other direction, but it almost feels like it's actually easier to lie and be fraudulent in this high-tech information age world. The question is, what information can you actually believe? Anyway, so interesting PPI. Hey, that ticked higher. What's going on here? I thought you said inflation was going down. Consumer feel a little bit better, but a reading of 69, that's a very weak reading out of the consumer. And I will say, if it was just simply a question of, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? I think the answer I can say for myself, but I'm sure all of you would be in agreement that, oh my God, not even close. Cost of living is just absolutely skyrocketed. And the purchasing power of the currency, not only cost of living, cost of everything. And, I hate to say it, but inflation is actually nation breaking. It is the reason, I think, primarily why a lot of nations over the years collapse and disappear is this inflation bugaboo. And as I sort of started the rant off, I mean, theoretically, Mr. Trump's supposed to be the last president of the United States of America. Um, yeah, fascinating. So I did find it interesting, on a political side, that Camilla Harris said. I love this one guy. I think I have his name right, but I always get it wrong. Is it RJ Talks or RJ Speaks? I can't remember. This guy here. Obviously, he's a little bit right wing, right leaning. He doesn't really like the socialist too much. Anyway, interesting how if you listen to all of the NBC and unfortunately so many of the news outlets, the media, they're all owned by corporations now. So you can't trust anything any of them said. Walter Cronkite should be fucking rolling over in his grave. Um, and if you listen to actually most of the major media, you would have thought Donald Trump lost that debate. Hands down, Cami was an absolute knock the cover off the ball. Guaranteed she's our next president of the United States of America, whatever. I thought it was interesting. I like listening to this guy, obviously not quite on the same note as the paid for media. I think he will concede that Mr. Trump, I don't think he had one of his best showings. And you can tell that I think age is just getting to him. He just doesn't have the fighting spirit that he had like back in 2016 and even to a lesser degree 2020. But what was interesting was Cami here through the debate. One of the things that I noticed that jumped out at me was, the reporters specifically asked, what are you going to do to combat these high prices and try and, make life affordable again? And she just wouldn't answer the question. And RJ here, which I thought was hilarious, she went on another media outlet probably trying to sort of address these issues that she won't talk about policy. The guy right off the bat said, what are you going to do about these high prices? And she goes into this, I'm from a working class neighborhood and family, and we believe in family values, and just went on and on and on about everything other than what's your policy to try and deal with these high prices? She wouldn't even answer the question. And interestingly enough, he pointed out, and again, I don't know whether you can believe the guy or not, but he pointed out that actually there were a couple polls and exit polls and stuff, and people asking undecided voters and stuff which way they would lean, and they're very, very different results than if you just went on, and I hate to say it, but you could even argue to a certain degree, even our little sort of media summary page here that we have. I like to just put here for the site members. These are just a whole bunch of news feeds that I threw together just so we could just have sort of an inkling of what the media outlets are spitting out. But what's fascinating is if you go through all of these here, they all unequivocally say Cami won hands down. It wasn't even close. And yet the irony of it all is when you go to RJ, he has a slightly different opinion as to the results of the debate. So go figure. I don't know. If you want a slightly different look than all of these major news outlets, and I hate to say it, I don't quite understand, but my country is just stunningly socialist, communist. I mean, just over the top. And it was remarkable to see this Chinese media machine. And I don't know what incentive do they have to program Canadians? I don't quite understand it, but they were just over the top about how wonderful Cami is and how much of an evil villain Trump is, blah, 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 blah. Anyway. So where am I going with all this? I have no idea what the hell the results of this election are. I don't think anybody does. Having said that, I do find it fascinating that Cami here She will not specifically talk about issues. Every time somebody gives her an absolute direct question, she literally does not answer the question. And that scares me because she is a over the top socialist. And things like I'm going to tax capital gains, unrealized capital gains, I should say. I don't think that that has a hope in hell of passing, but at the same time, too, is that the tone of what the leadership direction is going to be over the next 4 years? And would that be slightly inflationary? You all know the answer to that. And what's that going to do to the stock market? Are people maybe going to hold on to stocks? And what I find fascinating, and this is what I pointed out to the audience, I think it was on the Friday video, and I think we made it public. But what's really scary is that everything is lined up now that Mr. Buffett is like, I'm getting the hell out of the stock market. And what does this mean? Does this mean that we're at some sort of long-term cyclical peak for growth and risk assets? And maybe we have to spend a decade or two with stock market underperformance and capital gains not to be had because the socialists are going to fuck us all over here? Don't be surprised, folks. They've done it in the past. There's no guarantees in any of this shit. I don't think people realize how dangerous the situation is right now. And then, just sort of an aside, you think that the inflation problem's gone away. What was really interesting was I did a sort of a sales pitch on why I'm bullish of gold recently. And of course, I've shown you guys this before in the past, so this certainly shouldn't be anything new. The only question here is, can I actually show you this image? Let's see what happens. No, why does it do that? You zoom in, and you have the damn picture get smaller. Damn it. Anyway, how am I going to show you this? Well, we can try. Let's see what happens. Inflation from, you can see, I've obviously done this search before. Now let's see whether I can show you that image. And actually, I think it was this website because you can see I've already visited before. And Lynn Alden, I think, is the person who actually did a very interesting study, good economics, sort of pointing out that this cycle around shouldn't be any different. But this is what I've basically been telling my audience. I believe in, I think you guys have seen this before, but yeah, what the hell? I'll show you again. Where is our generational comparison? I think, great resets. The previous cycle, I think, was the 1940 to 1949 world. And it's fascinating how whenever you talk to anybody in financial markets, anywhere, anybody whatsoever, they always say the post-World War II world. Well, we're going to analyze everything from the post-World War II world. Now, why would they do that? Well, I would actually make the argument that we go through exactly the same generational cycles over and over and over. And actually, if you look at the history of money, if you go back even just say like the 15th century, because prior to that they had the tally stick system, which was actually, believe it or not, a pretty good money system because it wasn't corruptible the way that these fiat currencies are corruptible. And it wasn't even corruptible the way that things like Roman currencies that were denominated in things like silver and gold, right? What ended up happening was they would just shave off some of the gold and silver on the coins, basically to make them a little less valuable, a little less value. And that was the inflation to keep the whole con job going then. The tally stick system, it was impossible for you to inject inflation into the system because the way, if you understand the way tally sticks work, they're basically created And then boom, instantly that is a recognized amount of money, and you can't alter it. 100 years later, you can't alter it. It's the exact same amount of money. So after about the 15th, 16th century, the banksters finally were able to break the tally stick system. Of course, one of the ways they did it, they burnt down the fucking place they kept the tally sticks, the Great Fire of London, which sadly, of course, nobody ever talks about. But anyway, following that, then we sort of in our modern monetary system. And actually, there's a really cool tweet. And actually, I haven't even been watching the YouTube page. I don't know whether you guys are interacting with me over there or not. Hey, there you are. Hey, yeah, guys. If somebody could find it, but I put out, it was by my old buddy Zugi. No, not Zugi, Zoinky. There's Zugi sticks and then there's Zoinky, and I always get the two mixed up. Anyway, Zoinky, showing that basically every 100 years, and it's roughly 100, the 1%, the bankster class, the banking cartel, this sort of modern day aristocracy, and funnily enough, the banking cartel aristocracy is even more wealthy than landed gentry aristocracy. There was one famous quote where a guy touring one of the Rothschilds' estates while it was being constructed said, "Man, there's no way a king could afford this place. This has got to be a Rothschild's place." So that's how bad this is, people. And of course, me doing my civic duty. Uh, if you want to understand the reality of the world that we live in, this is by far the absolute best piece. And the sad part about it is that the guy's probably going to die and become completely forgotten by history because, of course, the bankster 1% class control our education system and make damn sure that the public doesn't learn about this. But this is by far the absolute best. And warning, warning, you are about to learn the reality of your world. Warning, warning, Will Robinson. Warning. I'll even put this in the little YouTube chat box there. All you 38 people watching, this is your eye opener of how the world really works. But anyway, the point of the matter here is about once every 100 years, they go and hit the reset button and create a brand new fiat currency, or let's call it hegemony currency. It doesn't necessarily have to be fiat. The sad thing is you could argue that the start of the end of this cycle was 1971, where the hegemony officially took itself off of the gold standard, which sort of was the last sort of piece of quote unquote value equation for this hegemony system. And now these currencies are basically worthless. So we're in the dying phases of this system. And you might argue that this, ironically enough, was the very beginning of this system. And it began the transition to the US dollar as that world hegemony. It began in 1913, right here. And you might argue, or one might argue, that this was the sort of the very beginning of the US dollar hegemony. And interestingly enough, there is talk, of course, that they ramped this up to try and screw the public and get them all to chase. And of course, the crash following bankrupted all of the public. The bankster class officially took over society here. They just stopped issuing credit. Tons and tons of international or financial institutions that worked outside of this banking cartel. Think of Jim Stewart. I think that's his name. It's a Wonderful Life. The savings and loan, and you can think of Potter as Jerome Powell. And interestingly enough, Potter, for whatever it's worth, I think is actually the classic bankster model. And of course, the guy who's the public face of the central bank this go round actually is a lawyer. So, and I think that was done on purpose, that they knew that this great resetting, this great fucking was coming. And I hope you're all enjoying it. You got your nice, I hope you have some Vaseline. I mean, we're all going to get it, and we are getting it. It's happening. It's right in front of our eyes. Try and at least make it a little bit more comfortable. So maybe go out to the grocery store and get yourself some Vaseline or something. Because, I mean, it's happening as we speak, bastards. Um, I used to joke with people, through this period, and I used to joke because not even thinking that it would be a direct reference, but it's shocking at this joke now. When I was working first job in the securities industry here, every single day for lunch, I would go to Subway and get a 6-inch tuna on cheese. And that was my lunch, and it was $2.75. That's almost comical. And that's how inflation destroys economies. That same sandwich, nothing has changed. If anything, the tuna probably has more, chemicals and plastics and shit in it. It's probably much worse for you to consume as a human. Now that same 6-inch tuna on cheese over here is now like $8, $9, $10. That's how nations are destroyed by these bankster crooks. It is a perfect illustration of this machine in process. And the sad part about it is this image, this is taking the money printing out of the equation. And this is the hard part of this whole sales pitch, for lack of a better term, to the public, is to try and get them to understand this. Because what does the public see right now? They don't see this image at all. They see this Dow Jones Industrial Average priced in the diluted units. And what does that look like? I'm trying to find the screen that I have it on here. It looks like, any one of these. Where's my SPY? There we are. There's the S&Ps. So it doesn't look let's get rid of this stuff here just so you can see. So there's since that 2000. This is what the public sees. If you look at that image, would you say to yourself, wow, geez, it sure looks like this is a booming stock market? Looks like it to me. Would you think that that's a booming stock market? Would you think that's a booming economy? But in reality, this is so tragic. If we take the money printing out of the equation, because keep in mind, these things, this is the S&P 500 depository. This is just an asset that reflects the theoretical value of stocks. So are stocks really this much more valuable? They're just so awesome. They're making so much money. No. In fact, stocks haven't done anything in reality over the past 20 plus years, right? This is 2000. That's the dot-com boom. We still have not gotten back to the levels that the stock market and the economy was at in the dot-com boom. Isn't that incredible? That is like the biggest fraud you could possibly pull on a society. This is a lie. God, so sad. How do you teach people this? How do you try and get the message out? When people open up their newspaper and the Dow Jones Industrial Average is 40,000. Hey, I bought the Dow when it was 10,000 and the dot-com boom. Don't tell me I'm not making money. I'm up 4x on my money. Are you really? Coming back to what I originally wanted to say, which, you're not going to like, is you thought that inflationary push out of 41, 2001, great sickness. What a fucking con job that was, eh? There's 1941, 1942. And I think that this is, great reset. Again, think of our image here. And I have to say, this is, it's the worst part about this is you can't even get the public to acknowledge this. And yet it's so brutally obvious. But darn, now I'm getting off tangent here. What I'm worried about, of course, is look here. Oh boy. And what's funny is look how in 1944, 1945, 2024, interesting. Look how in 1943, the numbers were still high, but they're falling. And look how 1944, 2024, look how they got it to like zero. And that was the absolute best the inflation problem could get to. And then sort of middle of 2024, middle of 2024, we get the absolute best inflation reading. And then the son of a bitch, because, what a surprise. Is the Fed going to go and cut rates here and actually start moving on an interest rate cutting plan? And of course, all the central bankers around the world are all cutting rates aggressively. Are they going to basically bring this inflation problem back? Of course. That's the way this stupid game works. So I don't know where we are exactly. I mean, according to history, we're probably like right around here. But I might, beg your pardon, 44, right around here. But the worst part about it is look how bad things get, especially right near the end of this coming presidential term here. Like this will be, 2027, 2028. Look at these numbers. Holy shit. And if we think about the last sort of mini Great Reset, which was the 1980s, and these things move in like 40-year cycles, that's where we come up with that Newmont image. And if you think about the latter part of the 1980s, there was a massive inflationary push. Why? Because Ronald Reagan had came to office. What was fascinating was in 1980, of course, he came to office, and there's a famous Johnny Carson interview, and he said, let's balance the budget. Let's live within our means. Then he was elected. Pow, 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 pow. Central banksters basically reminded him who's in charge, and he better play ball. Is that what just happened with Mr. Trump? Interesting how Mr. Trump's attitude has completely changed there versus before getting reminded of who's in control of this society. And then Mr. Reagan, he actually came into office and he's like, fine, fuck it. 300 ship Navy. We're going to have the biggest Navy in the world. Of course, massive government spending. We're going to endorse deficit spending, what George Bush Sr. called voodoo economics, or in essence, blowing up, spending way more money than government has, destroying budget and destroying the value of the currency. And what does that do to inflation? You know how that story went. Question is, where do I have that fun image? Is it over here? Nope. Oh, is it over here? Nope. I hate when I do this. Too many damn tabs. Anyway, there we are, over here. It was this tab all along. Anyway, so, oh boy, look at that mess. And how did Newmont act through its respective, that 40-year cycle kind of thinking, the latter part of the 1980s? Holy crap. Gold stock. Gold is your inflation proxy. Oh, man. I mean, like, this is setting a perfect storm, right? You see the 1948 inflation push, and you can't say that this hasn't happened in the past. What was fascinating through this particular market was, of course, that the US government actually made in the 1930s, speculating in gold illegal. And they actually set for American citizens. And they actually set it up that the Europeans could basically rob the Americans of all their gold at like below market prices for a very long period of time, which of course I think was all part of the Rothschilds' plan to seek revenge on the United States of America because they got really beat up in I guess the 19th century. And actually, it's fascinating how I was watching some absolutely insane looking woke liberal guy laying into Donald Trump, and it's fascinating how he actually said that Donald Trump is as bad of a person as I think it was Old Hickory. And what the hell is Old Hickory? I think I want to say Andrew Jackson, but I don't think that's the right name. But anyway, so Old Hickory, and I always forget his real name. I don't know why. And Abraham Lincoln both completely fucked the banksters over big time. And I think that it was the banksters' goal, literally coming out of the 19th century, that they were going to take the 20th century to bankrupt the United States of America and seek revenge on them. They took over the banking system here in 1913. They laid the trap of the booming 20s, the Great Depression. The trap was sprung. They bankrupted tons and tons of mom and pop banks, and basically the national government, the federal government pleaded with the banksters, will do anything possible, just turn the credit back on. The trap was sprung. Boom, you are now officially our bitches. And the interesting thing is yeah, if you actually look at the United States of America and its growth prospects, you actually see the banksters' plan here of this hyperinflation of the money supply, this great resetting every single cycle. It's remarkable how consistent it is. I think this is the one that I have it on. Might be the other one. Yeah. So you can see that since that 1913 event, look how consistent. And, this was the great resetting right in here. And I would make the argument that this now is the bankster's path for us. And this is the world that we live in. So it was weird that we were coming through this last fear greed cycle peak. And I just simply asked, are we going to have a repeat of the greatest generation? These are the people that fought the Second World War. Or were we going to have a repeat of the baby boomers, greed generation? I personally think that we're more in this part of the cycle. Keep in mind, great resetting. And, one thing actually I do find interesting historically, I think that actually this Klaus Schwab, Adolf Schwab, maybe we should call him. I don't know. I think he actually spilled the beans of the 1% banksters plan and this whole great reset ahead of time. But I don't think he was supposed to do that, and in a weird sort of way. And I think actually, like, for people like Jerry Powell and all the people that really run the United States of America, like JP Morgan, Doofus, Joey, I don't think that they were actually very happy with Klaus when he actually did sort of publicly come out and disclose the Great Reset plan, because we all now have an actual reference point to use when labeling this. And I think that they would have much preferred that he had not done that. But anyway, that's here nor there. But anyway, the point here is I do think that this is our cycle. And keep in mind that really all this is it's not necessarily that stocks are just so great. It's that they've gone and absolutely blown up the money supply. And so if you look at it on a non-money supply adjusted basis, now I'm getting talking in circles here. The point here is that we are now they've blown up the money supply. That's happened now, and they will continue to blow up the money supply. So just remember that these stocks, this in this case, Dow Jones Industrial Average, the other case I showed the S&P 500, it's not really like these stocks are any more valuable. They're just actually just treading water, right? Remember our image of the Great Reset. They're just treading water here. So if anything, if you're looking at this image and you're like, how on earth does that happen? Let's try and understand that it's not really like these companies are making that much more money. And if anything, Mr. Buffett here is warning us that valuations are ridiculously too high. And he has publicly come out and said that I think he said he's raised something like $200 or $300 billion, and he's selling off, darlings like Apple and stuff like that, and just getting out of the market. I mean, the guy's older than dirt. Be interesting to see how long he actually has left with us. But just the simple point is, and I think, yeah, this is a really good example here. I mean, do we have to go through a period like this? Do we have to go through a period like this? Long and short of it here, and keep in mind, this number is now back above this dotted line here. So something's coming here. I don't know what it is, but something's coming. And if it was the election of some little socialist darling that she just goes, oh, I'm going to tax you all into the ground. Do you think that all these capitalists that own all this stock are going to stick around the stock market and wait for her to literally hand them a tax bill every year? No, they're going to sell and they're going to get the fuck out. You can see it coming 100 miles an hour. What I do find interesting is if we go back to our historical study, again, sort of thinking that this actually looks a heck of a lot like this. Look at what happens here in the years of like 19, and in this case, I know it's a little hard to see. I did this in detail on the Friday show. This is about a 5 to 10 year window. And my hunch is that we have a 5 to 10 year window as we have to get through. And is it Donald Trump gets elected and he cuts more taxes and completely blows up the deficit? And this actually goes exactly opposite because he doesn't, and I think he knows, but we are on the other side of a long-term interest rate cycle, and you can't just go and just print money anymore. We're in the wrong type of the cycle. You go and print money and you see instantly the hyperinflation that it causes. And it will be like this for the next probably about 40 years. We are in a very unfriendly interest rate environment, and we will be for quite some time. But the point here is, I think that we have to go through a window like this. And notice, stock market does nothing, and it just sits there and does absolutely nothing for quite some time. And my hunch is that's exactly what we have to go through here. And unfortunately, because we've got to get through this. Blech. Now, the one good part about this, of course, you all love your Bitcoin. Bitcoin. Now, you could go and pile into gold and gold stocks. And actually, Friday, total freebie for everybody. I outlined we didn't talk about that. I think we did talk about the Newmont trade. This Newmont trade is actually right about here right now. It's gone through a very nice rally. For time purposes, I'm not going to pull up the real-time chart. We'll just work off of this. I do think that we have to go through a period here, kind of like this, where you just might find that the next year or two in the stock market and the economy could be very, very difficult, especially if Cami wins. And keep in mind that the stock market, it derives its valuation based on perception. And I know I'm talking way too much here, so I should probably just wind this up. The stocks don't have to trade at any particular price or level. They are more a reflection and a function of what we collectively as humans think that they're worth. And of course, you got brokerage houses coming and going, we believe that their stock is worth this much and we are upgrading it. And all of a sudden, boom, stock goes up. Well, That's part of the system, right? That is part of that collective perception of what value is. I can tell you, it doesn't even have to happen. But if you have Cammy come in here on some sort of big socialist, let's all circle jerk together that we're all going to solve the problems by bigger government, which never solves any problems. Look at my country. Bigger government has turned into an absolute train wreck here. You're probably going to have like a few years where the capitalists are going to be like, I'm not keeping my money in the market. Get me the fuck out of here. Especially if they're going to do things just like, especially if they're going to do things like crank rates up. But somebody over there, just let yourself get rich, they said. Well, if you can buy at the bottom end ranges and sell halves on doubles, and then what's the other part of the position going to do for you? And that's the whole let yourself get rich. I mean, here, there's Newmont. I think this is a great example where, if you can sneak your way in reload zones, and this is what we teach, and that is the soundbite, Mr. Pikachu. He's a Pokemon. If you can sell half on a double year, right? And this is and just let yourself get rich. I might even argue that actually some of those altcoins that just spat out some buy signals there, right? Just let you see if you can sell half on a double, and then whatever happens to the rest of it, who cares? What I would suggest though, is maybe in this world, especially if Cammy wins, maybe it's a good idea that maybe you take your coins off of these centralized exchanges. Not your keys, not your coins, but if you've got your keys, maybe go. I love our CTO. He's so smart. He actually literally takes his, the passwords for his wallets and all that kind of stuff, and he punches them into a metal plate. So that password is never disappearing. And then he goes and buries it into his backyard. That's pretty smart. It's going to be awfully tough to tax that, eh? Crypto? What crypto? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I lost my crypto in a boating accident. But what do you think is going to happen if you've got, say, 100 shares of Microsoft sitting on an exchange? And now it's not even your shares. It's held in street form. It's not even in your name. And the tax man comes along and sees that. In fact, I had a conversation with a gentleman the other day where he's like, Brian, I think I want to go and load up on this TFSA and RSPs and all that and play the market through there because I can save on taxes. And I was like, I don't think that's actually such a good idea. Keep your money outside of registered accounts. Since we're such good technicians, we don't necessarily have to sell half on a double. Why not sell half on a 2.618? And then take that 0.618 as, that's the tax man's money. Put that on a side account so that every year you can show, look at, I bought this, I sold this. There's the taxes owing. Here's your fucking check, you cocksucking sons of bitches. Get out of my face. And then this money isn't locked up. So what I'm worried about 401ks and RSPs and RESPs and all this kind of stuff, and in my country they have this thing called TFSA. This is money that is like literally the system knows it is yours and it is now tracked. It's kind of like, crypto. I'm actually worried that crypto, at the end result of all this, is every single one of us is going to be on the blockchain. And you pull a puppy's tail when you are 6 years old, that will be recorded on your personal ledger for the rest of your life. You go try and get a mortgage 30 years later, and they're going to say, sorry, sir, our bank does not promote tail pullers. And there's nothing you can do to hide from that. This is the shitty part, and it's interesting to see how it's evolving in real time in our society. But this is the shitty part of technology, is that we are all going to be turned into drones, slaves to the bankster class. And I wouldn't even be surprised if the bankster class actually was the people behind creating Bitcoin, 10, 15 years ago, Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever the fuck that was, in cahoots with things like the NSA and CIA and FBI and all that shit. And this is the absolute perfect. I mean, it's beautiful how they've got all of the public thinking that, well, if I own Bitcoin, that's my way out of the system. When I might argue, there's no way out of the system with Bitcoin. You can't actually do any money fraud. Everything is recorded on the blockchain. There's a complete ledger of everything that's done. So anyway, that's here nor there. And of course, I don't want to piss people off. But the point of the matter here, I'm just simply saying is, I don't think our problems with inflation have gone away. And if anything, this feels like right now we're in the eye of the storm right here. We had this shit over here with the stupid made up sickness bullshit. And I have a feeling that they might even come back and hit us with another sickness over here. I'm worried that actually here is actually where they officially do the official currency reset, because things get absolutely out of control. Like 20% annualized gross inflation numbers. And this is the non fucked around with numbers, because keep in mind back then, government wasn't really good at finessing the numbers. You know, there's one Canadian commentator, he calls it the CP lie on YouTube. And I got to admit, I agree. The consumer price index that you're using nowadays to try and measure whether there's price inflation or not, it isn't even remotely comparable to this CPI index. They're apples and oranges, because the government now completely manipulates this data set to serve its purposes. I mean, hey, you all know this. I'm preaching to the choir, right? But you wonder, where the hell does Bitcoin, which I think is actually a perfectly good hedge, where does Bitcoin go to in this kind of environment? Do we actually see our $1 million Bitcoin? And the worst part about all this is I remember 5-10 years ago, I said, you know, you might have $1 million Bitcoin, $100,000 Bitcoin, but your Subway sandwich, it's going to be $20-$30 for a 6-inch tuna on cheese. You know, it was interesting. There was a guy that I was talking with. I don't know what happened to him, Wall Street silver guy. And I had just simply said, you know, actually, and talking about gold, because, you know, he's kind of in love with gold and silver and all that. And I had said to him that really, I don't see a problem why gold can't hit $3,000 an ounce. The last sort of cycle pivot, that 1980 window, gold was $300 an ounce. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a tenfold increase to this next reset, i.e., just add a zero onto the end of all your price tags, which means that at the end of all of this, that 6-inch tuna on cheese back in 2000, that was $2-3. By definition, that has to be $20 at the end of this fuckery. Sucks, but anyway, it's the way it goes. All right, blah, 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 blah. The good part about this is if you actually take ownership of your life, and you take ownership of your finances, and you take ownership of your behavior, there is a way out of all this. You just have to try and force yourself that when markets are Wing out, you have to buy. I mean, it's ironic. We can even use something as made up as this crazy stock index stuff. And I might even argue that stocks probably will do fairly well. This study was done back in 2023, so it's a bit old now. If we actually look at where the stock market is now, I think it's probably actually a bit higher. Where do I have that? Stock and stocks. I think I have it right here. There we go. This is the S&P 500. All right, so there we are now. So you can see they've already, so this is the non-diluted, the teal line. There's the non-diluted index, and look at it, right? And I mean, this is the worst part about it. When I try and go into the public and say, life isn't really that good right now. They haven't really done much for us. Why didn't Donald Trump hold that fucking Cammie's feet to the fire about the hyperinflation? Why didn't he talk to her about her being the border czar and how much of a disaster that went? I find it very bizarre how he just didn't have much of a fight in him through that debate. We were joking earlier as we were getting this going. I think he even knew, and he was being handled, that basically it was 3-1, and the odds of him actually even saying anything that wouldn't be just completely twisted on him were very low. So I think as a result, he was kind of like, all right, I'll show up, but I don't really care what happens here. Anyway, we'll see what happens there. But anyway, so here is sort of the real-time image of this is the old high in the stock market there back in 2000. And you can see we're not even there. But what's scary here is, remember this image I had said we would sort of break out, and then we have like 4 years of shit ahead of us. So you can see the breakout there. If I zoom in, it's interesting. The Fed hasn't been fucking printing money like a drunken whore lately. So as a result, these numbers are looking relatively similar now. But you can see the big breakout. So this, I think, is the shelf breakout level there. There. All right. Boom, 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 breakout. So boom, up we go. We go back to our comparison chart. So that's like there, breakout, which, as I said, we're sort of like wrong here right now. And now we have about 4 or 5 years. And I like this thinking because Mr. Buffett is telling us, I'm getting the fuck out. This guy's a pretty damn smart investor. There's no way in hell I'm ever going to second guess Buffett. Druckenmiller, he was quite famously publicly noted for saying he's gotten completely out of the stock market. He sold Nvidia 6-8 months ago and not even participating in any of this fucking insanity that's going on in the stock right now. There are a lot of tells that the smart money is not buying here. And if one thing that actually really bugs me, that is another tell that we have problems coming up here, is one of my OGs who works in our education program, and I absolutely love our community. I tell you, you take our education program, you stick around TRI, you will never be one of these public participants ever again. But I absolutely love this guy, where he said to me, I'll just read it, I won't show you his name. He sent me a message saying, Brian, hey, you got a minute? Something doesn't smell right here. And he said, is there any way to buy a stock at the previous day's closing price, even though that the stock is already up in pre-market, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, maybe if you have access to ECNs and all that kind of fun stuff, you could have bought options and exercised them prior to the event. But he says here, I've landed in an investment group, which bracket I think is a scam, for several weeks now, and predicted 10 plus stocks correctly, which shouldn't be possible. They claim that they talk to market makers and know what is going to happen that day. Now, does that sound at all familiar, especially to this audience? Because most of you, I know Adam, I saw Paul, who used to be an old OG at TRI, Constantine. I know there are a lot of you over there on YouTube. I see Joshua over there. There's DMAC. Does this sound at all familiar to you? Is there any other space where, oh, don't sell half when it doubles, buy more? Or, I feel your concerns, but I think that we're only going up from here. Sound at all familiar to any of you? No? I get the distinct impression that the stock market is heading into the same trap as what usually happens in this crypto space right at the top of the market. Similarities are shocking. And quite literally now, we have all the penny stock promoters now coming out of the woodwork, promoting out they're doing awesome, and you're missing the opportunity of a lifetime. And look at all the incredible profits we're making, and get rich quick, blah blah blah. It's history's repeating itself. And then in the same note, right? So these are the any of you ever seen The Wolf of Wall Street? You know what I'm talking about. And in the same note, people like Mr. Buffett are saying, you know what? I'm raising cash. I'm getting out. Things don't smell right. And then you heard me talking about how the socialists seem to be coming out of the woodwork. They're all working in cahoots, including the bankster class, which I find fascinating. But they're all working together, and it scares the hell out of me what's coming down the pike here. It really does. All right, have I scared the shit out of all of you? Oh god. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Only time will tell. Ironically enough, I mean, let's talk a little market here. So that's a whole bunch of rhetoric for you. I'm giving you a sort of background. Ironically enough, when it comes to the stock market, and again, the idea that I think that they're going to manipulate this market to make damn sure that Cammy wins and that Donald Trump doesn't have a hope in hell in winning. What's the one way that they can get Joe Sixpack at the voting polls, the voting booths, to go, oh, you know what? These socialists aren't so bad. Look at my 401k. I'm richer than stink. Yeah, there's no way in hell I want to change this game. These guys are kicking ass. Look at my 401k go. Where the hell's the damn chart? Nope, it's not that one. I showed it to the site members. I don't seem to have it here. Maybe I got rid of it. Actually, yeah, because remember I deleted all that shit, eh? So let's go back there. Yeah, thank you. Who can tell me what kind of chart pattern does this look like? And actually, I've already given you the answer here. What does that look like? If you said that looks like a cup and handle, Brian, then you win the booby prize. What's really interesting too is if we just play connect the dots off of this high and that high, are we going to start seeing some confluence? Oh, look at that. There's a fogging bomb. Cup and handle would be just keep it really simple. There to there. There to there. Ooh-wee. They are taking this thing up. I would say that the target should be 2.618 here. I think that's the target. That's the target I would use. And interesting, if we just draw a line off at 2.618, oh, hello. Is there anything that happens the beginning of November? Isn't that incredible? Do you see how fucking crooked this is? This is insane. This whole thing is so fucking crooked. You're left there just going, I can't believe how telegraphed this is. So don't be shocked if you see that this stock market is just booming. And Cammy's going to come out and go, see, Biden economics, they're the best. We want more socialism. Trust me. Yeah, we're doing everything awesome. Look at us. The stock market's going to be booming higher. Banksters are happy. Things are humming along. And then as soon as the election is over, and here's the kick in the pants, is I think this is going to be a buy the rumor, and that's going to be a pretty damn big move. And it doesn't really matter who wins. Everything's going to be insanely overbought. And my hunch is that we roll over here. And of course, into the end of 2025, would that be a nice, convenient window if anybody wanted to avoid all the socialist taxing of unrealized capital gains? You know what? Why don't we just sell into here and we're gone? And it doesn't matter what Cami does on the other side. Doesn't matter what Trump does the other side. We'll get the fuck out here into the end of this year, because tax increases are not retroactive. They will kick in as of calendar years. So I could easily see that scenario happen. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. And also, too, what I noticed, like the sheer violence of this moves, this in itself is also another excellent testimony to the end of a move. When stock prices can move this violently, this quickly, and just in a straight line fashion, straight up like this, that is perfect hallmark of the end of a move, right? You all see how Bitcoin acts into the end of its moves. It's the same logic. And try and remember this. I'm going to teach myself how to trade. Where's my Bitcoin screen? It's one of these. This one? Yeah, there we go. How did Bitcoin act into the end of its move? Straight up. That in itself, when you see Bitcoin act like this, that in itself is your warning that, oh boy, looks like the move's just about over. Of course, the sad part about it is Brian comes out and tries to tell you, don't chase. This market's going parabolic. What are you people, crazy? You're going to justify buying Bitcoins here? Gucci sweater wearer. Where's that goof, eh? You can't buy markets that look like this. You're just not allowed to. I mean, you can if you want, but you sit there 6 months later. Am I making money yet? Am I making money yet? Am I making money yet? If anything, you got to feel good for the Gucci sweater wearers, because they haven't had their fucking heads handed to them. What should happen is the market should trade back to reload zones. That's the whole point of this. So I don't know what the hell this looks like going forward, but what I can tell you, and this was the note that I put out, is we are coming into a very dangerous window here. I wouldn't make any bets about something like Bitcoin ahead of this event and through this window. If anything, I think, and it's interesting because, those people who followed me for a long period of time know exactly what I would call this market state. When I do a squiggly line there, and I do a squiggly line over here, and I do a little bloopy bloop there. And Meg and her husband, Casey, when I met Casey, he had one of these, and he looked so cute. He's adorable. And this is a very popular chart pattern. And what my hunch is that Bitcoin price is probably going to oscillate through all of this insanity right through this pivot. And then, ironically enough, the volatility actually is going to increase on the other side of this event. This is going to be a really screwy next month or two, folks. We have two eclipses. So we have the initial eclipse, which I think actually sets the stage for the pivot. Then we have the eclipse on the other side, which is sort of like the release point. So the market moves into one eclipse window, and then it sort of bobbles, and then coming out the other side of the eclipse window, it decides its direction. Now, last go round, right, here was the last eclipse. And you can see did same sort of thing. We consolidated into the eclipse window, and then coming out the other side, we released the energy to the upside. So there was your eclipse window, and that resolved bullishly through there. That you hopefully you can see that consolidation. So I don't know. Maybe we do exactly the same thing. Eclipse window, consolidate, come out the other side, and the next big honking face rip move up starts. I don't know. Again, what I'll just simply say to all of you is that it's not our job to predict the future. And I don't think it's a good idea for any of us to get into the business of predicting the future. I think you're kind of asking for trouble doing that. And usually, what ends up happening when you do predict the future is you'll say something like, I think that the market's going to go up. And then what happens is it'll do like a 1 or 2 week face plan, and then it'll go up, and you'll be right. But people will only remember you because you said, I'm a bull here, and the market face planted down. They won't remember you when the market goes ripping higher here. So I don't think it's a good idea to sort of formally put your neck in the noose when it comes to predicting what's going to happen. And, our job as traders is not, we don't get paid to predict the future. There is no money to be made in that. And the weird thing is when you actually trade a setup and it hits your profit objective, there's no dancing girls, there's no sirens, there's no bells. There's no public accolades or anything. It's sort of like, boom, there's your fill. Yeah, your account balance went up. Look at you. All of a sudden, now you got more money in your account. And that's it. Nothing more. So I don't get anything out of saying, I officially predict that this is going to happen. And if it does happen, does it make any difference? Not really. And they always, you'll never be right 100% of the time in this game. I've told all of you that a million times. In fact, you should build your plan and build your business model to not expect to be right all the time. And how are you going to handle when you're going to be wrong? Because usually your lifespan as a trader is determined by how you behave when you're wrong in the market. Think Three Arrows Capital. Versus when you're right in the market. Yeah, great. Everybody looks awesome when we're in a rip-roaring bull market. But I can't tell you, just even in the 10 years that I've been teaching this education program and working with people in crypto, I've literally seen at least 100 people, if not more. But I could say, hand to heart, I could feel completely confident in saying I have seen at least 100 people go through TRI, become exceedingly wealthy on the move up, and end up just giving it all right back on the way down. I will be more than happy to testify in a court of law. And it's probably even a bigger number than that. Because most people here, all they're doing is they're just buying, hoping to God the thing goes to the moon, so that they're rich and they never have to work another day in their life. It's like the dream. And we as brokers and financial planners, it's the hardest thing to deal with people is they will buy something, but they will never want to sell it, because when the day that you tell them that they must sell is the day that the dream ends. And that's where most people fail at this game. Think Three Arrows Capital. They could not sell. They could not pay themselves for their efforts. When an asset doubles, don't sell half and create a risk-free trade. Buy more, which is about the dumbest, most irresponsible statement a professional advisor. I can't believe how these people are actually calling themselves professionals. And the worst part about this is that the market is rife with this shit all through here. And I can't stop people from buying. It drives you crazy. 3 questions. Oh, fuck me. Anyway, we'll just quickly go through this, then pop on over to the questions. So there's your 64,000 foot view. And you can see what we've done here. We had this big moving average cross, which actually is very bearish to me. This moving average cross actually has to cross back bullishly again before I can get bullish. We've got well-established downtrend lines and even broken uptrend lines. And I've told you before that the break of this line itself is not a sell signal. And, anybody who's taken our education program knows that. We actually have to get a market structure signal on the other side of this line to actually say that's a sell signal. And I even told you a week or two ago that this was actually a really bad place to be shorting and selling down here. So that takes us to the daily price chart. And what was really interesting about this was actually this is a pretty textbook bullish setup. In that we had trade location, the market dumped down into reload zones. We're now off the daily chart. The market could not break any lower. Candle body highs for trade location, candle body highs, candle body lows. You can see, look at that candle body high low there, right there, and then boom, down she goes. This is one example. Look at that one, candle body high for trade location. Oh, you'd look like a trading god if you hit that. Look at that candle body high for trade location. Oh, that worked out nice. Look at this. Did it actually? Oh, it didn't quite get up there, but pretty darn close. I guess they would have all these candle body highs. But anyway, point of the matter here is this was a bullish setup. So candle body lows for trade location, reload zones. And this is actually an inside bar. Not quite bull rammy, not a harami, but we'll call it an inside bar. It is a bullish setup. You could argue 3-bar fractal. And the trade here should be nothing more than you buy the inside bar, you risk to a break of the lows, and you take profits at the 50% roll. That's right there. In this particular case, for demonstration purposes for the site, basically said, I would do something like a 2-to-1 risk reward, sell half at that 2-to-1 profit objective, move your stop to scratch on the remaining. So your stop is sitting on the second half of the position down here, and just see where the hell this takes you. And I was also saying to the site that this is actually extremely dangerous, the way that they're rallying this into the Fed. If we look at other events, I don't know why this is the best example. I think I had it over here. Yeah, big rally into the Fed, following the Fed, boom. Big rally into the Fed, following the Fed, boom. Could we expect big rally into the Fed, following the Fed, boom? I don't see why not. So I don't think it's a good idea to be getting like uber bullish here just yet. Woo, hello. Nice. Actually, yeah, interesting. Ethereum tried to put in a nice little bottom here as well. This is the short trade that the only one that survived, because I got stopped out at scratch on the Bitcoin short. This Ethereum short still working, which is so cool. So you can see, this is classic TRI setup. And I might argue same sort of logic as the Bitcoin chart. So if we go up top here and do reload zones, what a surprise. That top came in right into reload zone. Nice bearish divergence up here. Nice M. So really everything that we teach at the education program, sell a couple. At 2-to-1 off of the risk taken off of this high, buy half of the position back, move your stop to scratch. I have been slowly moving my stop down here as time has progressed using that 3 high-low method that we teach in our education program. I wanted to give the market a little bit of breathing room in here. So I had last week my stop here, but I did see that it looked like they wanted to pop this a bit higher. Like we said on the Bitcoin market, they did have a really nice daily inside bar, which I think actually has hit its profit objective. It's interesting you saw here that I had on the reload zone earlier, and you could argue now, boom, 61.8. This trade now is starting to look a little exhausted. I wouldn't be surprised if there's one more push higher here, because I think we have to hit this AB equals CD bot objective right there. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a push up into Brian's favorite fib. And the one thing that kind of surprised me about this profile, this is what I was mentioning to the site members, is this looks a bit empty here. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a push up here into this eclipse event, into the FOMC, First interest rate cut in like 4 years. Fed's finally back on side. Everything's a big party. And the irony of it all is that's the end of the move, not the beginning. And we fill in the profile here. We hit reload zones. I mean, the interesting thing is institutional fingerprints. You can see the bar that made the high plus the preceding bar. That's way up top here. So I actually like the idea that they actually pop this thing right up into these highs up here into that FOMC event. Following that, I don't know. All I'm going to simply say is I do find it interesting that just looking at ETH here, remember we just had that example of the bullish inside bar and how it fired on Bitcoin. So hopefully what you see here, there's that inside bar, 50% retracements and reload zones. Well, what is this? And this is interesting. It's happening on ETH because Bitcoin itself, it hasn't fired yet. But notice ETH here, if we look at like a 4-hour chart, oh my goodness, what letter of the alphabet is that? Now, I don't know whether this move is done. And again, ahead of the FOMC, I do not think it's a good idea to put on new position. I do not think that's a good idea whatsoever. I think, believe it or not, I don't even think it's a good idea to put on any new positions until we get on the other side of all of this shit. This is going to be crazy over this next month. It's going to be nuts. But you can see how Bitcoin's rallied back into trendline resistance, rallied into moving average resistance. That's the weekly chart. Dailies, like I said, this might make a 3-bar fractal, but I actually like the idea of it pushing a bit higher here to hit this ABCD objective. And also, too, they're playing with this high right now here, and I think that's the actual top way up there. And we talked a little bit about the profile there. So, and then, like I showed you there earlier, are we getting the signals now? Well, not really. Where was that? These signals actually came in a week or two ago, and they're some fucking killer signals. I think we've got this signaling system down, so much so that I think that this is worth $85 a month subscription. I mean, if you get these kind of signals, could you make $85 on that kind of trade signal? I think so. Could you argue that, well, I'm a big fan of those W's in indicators. I would love for a system somewhere on the interneting to tell me in my email or Discord, whatever the case may be, that, hey, W's are coming in on these indicators. There's nowhere on the internet where you can actually get this kind of information that RSIs are Wing out here. You can't get that anywhere else. Is it worth $85 for you to get that notification? Could you have made $85 on that trade for 1 month's work? I think so. I'm so excited for this trade system. But the problem is that these are old signals. You can't buy that now. And anybody, if you don't know what you're doing in the market, you cannot buy now. In fact, that's an inside bar fail signal right there. So, if anything, what I'm worried about here is the signals. I showed you that. Remember, I think I teased you. The only signal that came in on the email over the weekend, which I thought was super cool, is this is the email that I get every single day. Is this worth $85 a month to get this information just spoon fed to you? Our breadth indicators, all those signals. I mean, you can have them on your report if you want, but here are the actual trade signals. I showed you, you see the reports. Look what the market wants us interested in now. Not much, but isn't this interesting? Usually I find that Litecoin actually outperforms when Bitcoin has to take a bit of a pause. So interesting how the system likes Bitcoin versus Litecoin, not Bitcoin versus cash or Litecoin versus cash, Bitcoin versus Litecoin. That's interesting. So just out of curiosity, let's go see what, this is a fun signal. I love this. This is Solana priced in Australian dollars. Isn't that a cool signal? I swear, man, this fucking platform is just awesome. Just hope to God we can survive long enough to actually encourage you people to subscribe. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I suppose. But just for fun, we'll finish off the broadcast, then quickly look at the questions. Let's just see what this Bitcoin versus Litecoin chart looks like. I'm not quite sure where Stuart actually looks at this. Wow, it's not really many choices there. What happens if we? Oh, you know what? The signal is actually an interesting one. Where the hell is that? And I'm running out of time here, and I God, sure love the sound of my own voice. I don't know whether you guys enjoyed that rant here today, but damn, did 2 hours go by quick, eh? The signal is not a, and it's cool how Stuart does this because he kind of makes it in sort of simple language, but you can see the actual trade setup is XLT CXXBT. And there's the signal. Jesus, look at that shit, eh? So the question is, how on earth are we going to get that? That's LTC XXBT. Am I going to be able to do that? On TradingView, it's always challenging to figure out what the hell TradingView sees. LTC XBT. I just want to see whether I can show you this, and then we'll move on. It's kind of a nice little tease. XXBT. Okay, so system does not see that. Or TradingView. There's LTC versus Bitcoin. Maybe it's off of one of these things. I don't know. Anyway, let's go. I don't know, BTC. Does that come up with something? Let's see if we can use this. Okay, Kraken, I think, is where Stuart sees this. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so there's the cute little W. There's a cute little W in OBV. Yeah. Actually, there's OBV right there. I guess W's came in here. I mean, you can see a big honking W there. And I suppose the system probably sees, yeah. So there's the trade. I don't know whether we want to go off of that low or not. Let's see. Well, interesting. That comes in at or below reload zones. And this one at or below reload zones. And then if we change this to a line chart, there's the W. So isn't that kind of cool? You know, you never have any guarantees with this, but I would not have a problem if somebody had said, you know, Brian, I'm super interested in this trade. And then, of course, this is like sharpshooter. Maybe you take that daily signal and you go, all right, let's see if I can get a setup that comes in reload zones off these lower time frame charts. Yeah. But you can hopefully see the W. The next step that I want to do in this signaling system is to create like 2 W's in a row, because I love when 2 W's come in on RSI. So we had 1 W, but actually this is probably a good illustration of that. So you got your first W, and now if the second W can come in through the 50 line, you all know that that's going to get Brian super jazzed. So if nothing else, this is just sort of set up where you go, all right, give me any kind of bullishness, maybe even off like a 4-hour chart or a 1-hour chart, maybe an inside bar now, especially coming against those lows. And I might just step up and take a risk. But really, based on this, you notice there's 78.6, basically where we are right now. I wouldn't have a problem risking against these lows here. So that's cool. Look at that. That's a reload zone W within a reload zone. Man, super cool. So anyway, interesting to see Litecoin versus Bitcoin. So system's not even interested in trading any of these things versus fiat right now. Okay, I've got 1 minute left to answer 52 questions. Good luck. Might be actually, Liam and I can stay out a little bit later here today. So let me go and see if I can at least speak to some of these questions. And if they're too complicated, I'll just defer to tomorrow's daily brief. Where are we here? Where is Chris? Is there, and then he's there. Then AMA. Are there any questions here that I can quickly answer? I might just defer this to tomorrow because I can't believe I just sitting here shooting the shit with you talking about economics and fucking 2 hours just drives by. Flies by. Not drives, flies. Okay, come on. Hurry up. Let's go. Gotta like move over here. There it is. Let's go down here. Okay, 9:15. Hi, Brian. Could you please explain the new format of the daily brief? I'll explain it as soon as I know what it is. Do you still have a daily brief followed by a daily brief after party? Nope, we got rid of the public broadcast because it wasn't productive. We do Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I like to come on the site and do a daily offering where I just interact with people on the site. I might just be loading that on my own and doing it through like a Google Hangout, just so site members do have the ability to interact with me Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And we'll probably dial down the whole sort of production quality of this because frankly speaking, we just don't have the interest in the website anymore. There's just not that much interest. So as a result, there's not that much interest in the education program. I'm just trading my own money. If we can't justify the expense, because it costs a bit of money to produce these shows with all of our team. If we can't justify the expense, I'm not going to do it. So we've cut Sjord and Julian's offerings back. They can do their own videos on their own, which they're doing. And hats off to them. I think that's a great aspirational goal for them to be producing little snips and stuff like that for the YouTube channel. But that's pre-recorded stuff and not live. I am going to try and do the Monday, Wednesday, Friday offerings with the site. But we might have to go back to the old format where it's not really very polished videos done through the Hangouts, and we just sort of shoot the shit because I mean that's the way I run classes for the level 3 right now. I'll just go back to doing that. And I think we sort of call that like our VIP session. I don't know whether we've actually ever had any sort of naming meetings of these. I think Chris actually just sits there and goes, okay, what the fuck should I call this? And he just comes up with these names. So thank you very much, Chris, for coming up with the VIP session. But I think this is what we're transitioning to in this sort of quieter environment, less videos, less the Beamish, and probably a little bit less sort of production quality because frankly speaking, can't spend the money on the production quality anymore because there just isn't any revenue. Also, our daily briefs still live or pre-recorded. As I said, I'll try and do the Monday, Wednesday, Fridays live. I think I am going to try and continue doing this Sunday show. A good opportunity to interact with the public, but we'll see what the budget holds. We might have to scale this back to the old Google Hangouts format, not very well produced because, Brian, I hate spending money. And there's no way in hell this venture is going to go into debt to continue. So if the revenue just isn't there, we'll just dial everything back. So just FYI, that's potentially what's coming down the pike. The basic site membership, I think that, things like the Monday, Wednesday, Friday interaction with the community, I think is extremely valuable. And also too, if I can't answer all the questions here, it's already 4 minutes past the hour. I should be out of here. That gives us the opportunity to circle around and talk with the community then. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what we're shooting for. This stuff is still very much up in the air. And frankly speaking, I don't even know whether TRI's education program and this kind of stuff is even going to be around because there just really isn't that much demand for any of this. there's plenty of demand for, Gucci sweater wear kind of idiot stuff. But somebody is going to tell you, this is difficult. It's hard work. You're running a business. You're never going to be right 100% of the time. You actually have to build yourself as a risk first approach. You have to be responsible. You have to make sure to pay yourself. And if that means limiting profits on the way up, so be it. But you have to ensure that you don't get your ass kicked and when the market comes right back down. All this kind of stuff. I've been doing this for 10 years. And frankly speaking, 10 years later, and we only have 43 people watching this broadcast. I tried. I was honest with all of you. Gave you the old college try. I think I'm a relatively acceptable person. I don't really speak that horribly. It's just not resonating, which is kind of a sad, but it's just the way that it is. So just understand, if we have to dial everything back, because I'm not going to go into debt running this website, well, so be it. Things might get a bit quiet. So that's the way it goes. Mehdi says we want more of the Beamish. Well, you can maybe encourage people to consider joining the site, joining an education program. Take advantage of our Black Friday deal, $85 a month, I think, for the TRI Dashboard Pro package. I think is an absolute steal. And of course, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, interacting with Brian in the videos on the site and all that, and our extensive library and all of our videos. I mean, God, we got thousands of tutorial videos, our various different demonstration portfolios. It should be an easy sell, but wow, I can't get anybody to subscribe. I can't get anybody to sign up. So anyway, it is what it is. All right, so there's your answer to question 1. Question 2. Hello, Brian. Are you still accumulating crypto for your LOL portfolio and FA portfolio? Have the TRI portfolios on the website been updated? What are your recent buys? Thank you. I actually went and bought a little bit of that Trump coin heading into the debate. That landed flat on its face. Remember, at any given point in time, if you go on the Discord, I will tell all of you in Brian's trading room every single thing that I'm doing. You can go to Brian's Trades. So there's everything that I'm doing in the market. So you can look at this at any given point in time. I've asked the team to try and put together somebody to administer the portfolios on the site. So just waiting on the team to put that together so everything is updated in real time. I'm 55 years old now. I do not have the time nor the energy to also update all of that and keep it running. And this is what the team is all about. So I can go and come up with great investment ideas, run all the plans, teach you all theoretically how to do this. But I'm basically waiting on the team to actually put the tools together to make sure that these portfolios are updated and consistently accurate. As it is right now, if you want to know what trades I'm doing, anything at any time, as I said, I post everything in the Brian's Trading Room. And the issue with the LOL portfolio is we tried that last cycle to do everything through DeFi and through the ledger, and that turned out to be a disaster. I had money stolen from me off of it. So I don't even really want to go down that road anymore. I've asked the team to help me to try and transition to a centralized exchange, Coinbase, Kraken, it doesn't really matter. We do have a few names on the Kraken site, like Doge when I picked some of that up. The Energy Webs, I bought that last spring on Kraken. So I think the plan will be, I don't think we're in a huge hurry to get through this election, but over the next month or so, I would like to get together with the team and see if we can transition as much of that stuff off of the ledger and onto these centralized exchanges, just so I can operate the way that I operate normally. Banging out doubles, all that kind of stuff. With regard to the FA portfolio, that's entirely up to Sjord. He is running that portfolio. Julian's running his portfolio. I can't comment on them. We did do a recent purchase, Alibaba, a bull call spread in our interactive brokers account. I'm waiting on the team to put together a page for the website to display that account information. So it's just really a question of when does the team get around to doing that. All right, so there you go. I don't know whether that's a good answer or bad answer. We can talk about this more in the days and weeks ahead, in Monday, Wednesday, Friday videos as well. And then finally, somebody asked here, Brian, I would like to hear your take on healthcare sector, maybe in daily brief. A while ago in a conference interview with Mr. Druckenmiller, he mentioned concerns for the cost of healthcare being a lot higher in the future. The UK tends to have a lot of negativity, both past and present, with the healthcare system. And HIS, yeah. Of course, you would have knowledge of your healthcare situation in Mr. Trudeau's dictatorship. Yeah, it's a fucking nightmare. I have a small position in a stock, already got my double. Well, that's good. So you're a good risk manager. I like that. Could you take a look at Kuros N on the SIX Swiss Exchange? Many thanks, Ninja. Let's do this tomorrow, right? That's a perfect conversation to have in tomorrow's daily brief. And then why not look into copy trading as a revenue stream? Yeah, we could. What I would like to see is I'd like to see TRI get its act together. And I want to see the portfolios being managed and accurately being reported. And then we might head down that road. We've spent, and really the primary focus I've had for the past few years now at TRI, it's a little disappointing it's taken this long, is we specifically reached out to a certain gentleman, won't name names, to basically bring my 1980s website into the 21st century. And the reporting of things like my weekly commodity trend survey and, things like my absolutely love key reversals. This has been my primary focus for literally years now. And I'm just waiting for this to get to the point where it is a marketable product. And this has been my primary focus. Interesting. Weekly bullish 52-week 50% level Intel. Did you notice that Intel put in a little W? I thought that was cool. Anyway, I went and bought some Intel recently. So people on the site were giving me shit. Anyway, but whether it be Brian, he loves his key reversals. And now we have all these pre-built screeners. And I said point here is this has been my number one focus. I want to get this up and running. And maybe after that, we can start thinking about things like copy trading. I'm not really interested in that. If anything, I want to become less active on the site, not more active. So, and also too, I'm going through my own journeys, trying to get myself back sort of operating the way that I used to 10 years ago. And it's taken me a good year or so to try and get all my shit together. And so I'm going through all of that process myself and getting my day trading and stuff crisp. And I have been noticing that over the past 6 months or so, my trading is getting much, much, much better, much crisper. So I don't really care whether, I think I've told you all before, I have plenty of money in my bank account that I could just live off of the money in my bank account. I don't have to do this. But what I think I told you a few minutes ago, and I hope I reiterated this, is I don't want to see TRI go into debt. TRI, if it's revenue positive, great. It stays alive and humming along and doing all its thing. But there's no way in hell I'm taking any personal liability for this company if the revenues just aren't there. And I'm not going, I don't need to bust my ass. I've done my job. 10 years I've given all of you my soul and asked literally nothing in return. So to answer your question specifically, where is Brian's focus? It's getting this 1980s website that was actually, sort of my brainchild before my wife passed away, and sort of the focus of everything that I did when I was working with my hedge fund buddies, um, up and running. It's getting damn close. Like I said, the signals coming out of the system right now are looking really sexy. Okay, I'm 15 minutes late right now, so now I'm gonna have to call and apologize for being late. So I think we're gonna have to leave it at that. I'll circle back around and we'll review these questions again tomorrow in the daily brief after party VIP. I'm not even quite sure what the hell we're calling this session tomorrow, but I think we're probably I'm late. I've talked my piece. If anything, what I would strongly suggest, you only have a day or two left, and you can actually go and schedule an actual conversation with Josh, our sort of marketing specialist here. But the only thing I would suggest, you got about another day or so to sneak your butt into this fall program. If you can, I would strongly suggest you do so. And we'd love to have you on board. So PMA for the win. Slow and steady wins the race. Don't take no win nickels. Remember what your number one job is. All the best and bye for now.